here, the Frugal Crafter. I am gonna do a little watercolor painting today, and this is a photo by Ruth Archer, and it's I actually found it on the site Paint My Photo, where photographers share their photographs with artists. It's really awesome, and they are moving, and they've got a new website they're putting up. I haven't been to the new website yet because they're rolling it out kind of slowly. So if you've tried to join Paint My Photo lately and you haven't been able to, please be patient. It's all volunteers that work there and that are migrating the site. So, you know, they have jobs, they have other things going on as well, and it will just be a while before everybody is invited to be on the new site. I haven't even got the invitation to be on the new site yet, so not that that's like some measure of success. Oh, if Lindsay's been invited, well then, no. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, to please be patient while they are migrating. So what I'm doing here is I'm drawing this window box with geraniums. I just wanted something kind of bright and cheerful and summery. I'm sketching it on with a peach watercolor pencil. I think I'm going to switch to something a little bit darker here. Go in with this green. These are my Primo watercolor pencils. You can use whatever you like. These happen to be on my desk right now. I'm feeling that box might be a little crooked there. But, you know, I just kind of want to just have a really fun painting. I've been getting ready to go to, actually, when you guys see this, because I wanted to have something up this weekend in case I can't get my act together and figure out how to use my darn phone to do any broadcasts from the show. I wanted to make sure I had a new video for you guys this weekend, at least one. You know me, I like to do something every day, but I'm not going to put that pressure on myself this weekend while I'm away. So I wanted to make sure I had something that was going up, even if I couldn't manage to do anything live from the show. So this might be it for videos this weekend, but it's probably, I'm not going to care about how long it is. If it's long, I'm just going to let it go and let it be long, and hopefully that's all right with everybody. If not, you can hit that double time speed button at the bottom, put on some tunes, and just watch me paint if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think I'm just gonna put in some, I just want to get a little bit of mass here with the green, just so I can figure out how much foliage I'm gonna have here. And there, yeah, I should be packing right now. I'm packed for my class. That's the most important thing. I don't have my clothes packed or snacks packed or anything else packed, but I've got my art supplies packed, and hey, that's the most important thing, right? I'll just wear my old stinky clothes for 3 days. I'm just kidding, I won't put anybody through that. Alright, I'm gonna just wet the background because I have enough of a sketch on there to have an idea about what I'm doing. I'm wetting the background with a large 1.5 inch brush. I think it's inch, right? It's inch. Oh, it's a 1 inch wide brush. Sometimes, you know, things can vary a little bit between manufacturers. This one seems quite a little bit wider than 1 inch, but apparently not. Or maybe it is. It's a 2.25 centimeter. No, I don't know. I don't know my metric. Alright, see, that line was bothering me, so I'm just kind of like dissolving it a little bit. And I'm going to go for some kind of stony look here in the background. I'm working on arches, which is a little bit more absorbent than the Montville or the Strathmore 400 I use sometimes. So, you know, if it seems like I have to put a lot of water in there more than usual, it's just the paper that I'm using. I'm going to use, let's see, I want kind of like just some natural color. I'm going to go with a little yellow ochre. And why don't I just throw some of that? I like to let the colors mix on the paper a lot and give it a nice sunny feeling here. Oh my gosh, 50 degrees this morning, rainy, walking the dog. It's like, come on, it's June. It was in the 40s yesterday. The kids' ball games got canceled because it was pouring. A little burnt sienna here. I hope it's warmer in Massachusetts. It's got to be warmer. It's got to be warmer than Maine. The place where we stay has an outdoor pool, so I don't know. They probably won't even have it open yet. It's been a very, very cold spring. We get teased every once in a while with some really nice warm weather, and then it's like back to reality. Oh yes, you're living in the tundra, the icy tundra of New England. I like saying New England, and then people get confused and they say, "You don't have a British accent." That's the worst British accent I ever heard. New England has nothing to do with England, except that's where our people came from, I guess. According to my DNA test at well, not mine, my sister's DNA test at Ancestry.com, we're all pretty much from Great Britain. Big surprise there, huh? Alright, let's get some shadow in here. What I did was I took a little ultramarine blue and mixed it in with that burnt sienna. It's one of my favorite grays. It's such a natural gray. So my husband was watching that on Netflix, that show Longmire, and I was not interested in it because I don't like westerns, but or maybe I do like westerns actually. I love the show Firefly, and it's almost like an outer space western. But anyway, I found myself, I was, you know, trying to, you know me, always working. I was trying to schedule some blog posts and stuff ahead of time because I'm, like I said, I'm going away. I've been gabbing about it only all the time for the past month and a half. And so I was just pre-scheduling some blog posts so that, you know, wouldn't leave anybody high and dry looking for the crafty goodness. And I started watching that show, and it was really good. And the scenery, oh my gosh, in Wyoming, I guess is where it is. It was so stunning, and it was never, it's never a place I've ever felt like I wanted to visit because I don't like to be landlocked. And, you know, the Midwest area. But man, the mountains, the plain, it was just so gorgeous. I'm like, you know what? I think I need to go there. I really, you know, I'm thinking about booking classes all over the country and kind of traveling with my family. I think it'd be a great experience for my children to see the United States. And it would be great for me to get over my anxiety on traveling, which I've noticed planning this class. I've just been so consumed with planning the class that I haven't had a chance to be anxious about the actual traveling and worrying about the nuts on their cell phones, texting while they're driving down the interstate, which, you know, seriously gives me, you know, panic attacks. You know, it's like, I'm not worried about me, I'm worried about all those other nuts on the road. They're trying to text on their phone and drive at the same time, or who knows what. Horrifying. But I thought, boy, it would be really nice. Plus, I think it's good for kids to see what you do, see what their parents do for a living. And I know my kids know what I do for a living, but to actually, you know, go and help. I helped out my parents' small business growing up, and it's a good learning experience. Kids need to know what it's like to you know, go after your dreams, and, you know that it's possible with work. You can make happen whatever you want to happen in your life. And that's you know, something my parents told me. That's the most important, you know, one of the most important lessons my parents taught me was that if you want it, you work for it. You know, nobody owes you anything, but you can make it happen if you're determined and persistent enough. And that's another piece of advice that my father gave me, and I tell this to anybody that is getting a driver's license, and it's always stuck with me. It's always been in my head. And he said that when you get behind the wheel, it's like you're getting into a loaded gun. And he's like, if you're not paying attention, if you're screwing around, you would kill somebody, you know. And that's why it drives me insane to see people texting on their phones and doing crap like that when they're driving. I mean, they're in a weapon. I mean, you don't think of it, but I mean, you have the power to change somebody's life forever if you just by being inattentive behind the wheel. And it drives me bonkers, and I find it so scary. And when I think about my kids getting old enough to get their driver's license, it's just horrifying. You know, because people, and it's adults, you know, it's not even the kids, it's the adults that aren't paying attention behind the wheel. I mean, who's that important they have to drive and talk on the telephone? Of course, I'm so paranoid. Very few people have my number. I've had a cell phone for a while, but very few people have my number. The school has my number, my kid's school, my husband, and a couple of my friends. And that's it. I'm awful. Alright, so this is kind of like the window here. This is the outside of a building. You're looking at this windowsill with window boxes out front, and this is just the inside of the window. And the reason I'm skipping around so much is because I'm doing more ultramarine and burnt sienna here, is because I don't want to go right next to an area that's damp, or I'm going to get some backwashing. And I'm still using that big brush. My theory is I start off with usually my wettest washes, wet paper. I start off with my biggest brushes, and then my paper gets drier and my brushes get smaller as I move along. And I'm painting the shadows in on this side. It almost looks like a, well, it's obviously a wooden. I'll put a link. You know what I can do? I know that since I like to link right to the listing on Paint My Photo where the person, just to make sure the photographer is getting credit rather than linking just to the full-size photo. But where they're migrating and they're going to be on their new site and the old site's going to be shut down, in July, I think I'm just going to link right to the actual photograph. This is by Ruth Archer. Ruth, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to link right to the actual photo because people can't join the old site, and then when joining resumes, it's going to be at the new site, and I just don't know what the address of everything's going to be. So hopefully anybody watching this will be able to grab that photo from there and see it. I just want to make sure everyone knows it's Ruth Archer that that added this photo, and she's got some really good ones there too. Now, I want to get a little bit of a texture, and I think I'm actually gonna switch. I'm gonna use this fan brush because I want to get some of that texture in there. I'm just gonna kind of drag some of it across. I gotta mix up a little more paint. When you're working with a hog brush, you have to kind of, it's almost like you have to kind of get used to how it's gonna flow. You know, it's gonna want to drag a little bit, and luckily a fan brush is gonna spread apart. So it will give you those little lines of color. And if I was trying to do this with a flat, it would give me a broad swash of color with paint this juicy, but you need it kind of juicy for it to flow on this watercolor paper. So when we do our washes of color over this, hopefully this will look like more like a wood grain because some of it will get washed out because of the nature of watercolor. There's like a rusty like hinge there, so I'm just trying to go around that a little bit. I know it's not very elegant yet, but we'll get there. I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm surprised at how much we've gotten done in 12 minutes, honestly, to be completely honest with you. So I'm gonna leave a little gap here. In fact, I think I'll go in here with this big brush and just give it like a little bit of a edge, so it's not going right up to that wet window. And then I'll drag out from there. And you could vary it, have some a little bit more brown in it, and do some with like a little wiggle, like it's got a knot in the wood. I love rustic textures. I honestly, it's kind of funny, and those, some of you guys are probably like, Lindsay, we don't care about the stamp show, we stopped talking about that, we're here for the painting, we're not here for the stamping. But I'm excited about it. So, you know, again, there's the mute button and there's the fast speedy button. I'm really excited, but there's nothing I'm really looking for at the stamp show, so it'll be interesting to see what I'm really excited about when I come back and I kind of give the recap. I'm gonna take a little yellow ochre and a little bit of this burnt sienna and get kind of like a orangey color. I think I might introduce a little bit of red too. Maybe a little, I think I'm going to be using, boy, I like, maybe some cad red, and I might actually use some, rose. Let's try a little bit of that. Oh, I like that color. It's a little unexpected, but it's giving me that nice peach, peach color that I think I'm going to use a little bit of that here on the windowsill. It looks to be like a stucco or something. I want something kind of light back here, so I can the geraniums will stand up against it, but it will still kind of not just be a blank white spot. And I made a little bit of my bluish gray that I've made in there. I keep returning to the same colors. It gives me, will give harmony in a piece if you keep returning to the same colors and mixing from what you've started out with. I have to tell you, I have got my perspective a little bit off here because I'm slightly looking, it's almost eye level but almost a little bit low, and here I have it like I'm almost a little bit above eye level there, so I need to figure out if I'm going to correct that or if I'm just going to paint a flower there and forget about it. Because you know what? That happens. Sometimes you just paint a flower and forget about it. Nothing wrong with that. It's called improvising, folks. You're like, yeah, Lindsay, it's called you being lazy. Just let's call a spade here, right? That's true. Oh well. Maybe I can bring that up a little bit higher. Sometimes, though, you do more damage trying to fix a mistake than you would if you just kind of forgot about it and painted a flower or a leaf there. Now I'm just going to get a little bit of a wash of color over this, and then I'm going to blot it with my paper towel so that it has a little bit of that stucco texture. Really not a lot of rhyme or reason here. Yeah, let me just kind of get that in there a little bit. And there's always refining that we can do with shadows later, so please don't fret if yours is looking like mine right now, because, well, you know, what are you going to do? You're looking at my tutorial. Hard to help some things. Okay, what I'm going to do now is pause it, dry this, and we'll come back to keep on painting. Okay, we're pretty well dry. I think I want to add some of the texture to the background here. And I got a little sponge here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not, but I did grab it. And I'm going to use this pointed round. This is a number 4, but it actually looks more like a 5 or a 6. So you can use whatever, anything in there, and anything that's going to come to a nice point. And I'm just going to kind of draw some of the cracks and some of the rocks that are in this stonework. It almost looks like it's part stone, part stucco. It's very very textured and old looking. I'm just going to add some cracks here or there. If they seem too dark, then I can always blot them off. I like twisting and pressing my brush here and there to kind of get a little bit of variance in the line. And the first few are probably going to look a little bold, a little too bold, but don't worry, they'll you know, they'll simmer down as they dry, and as we get more on there, it's not going to look so so out of place. And you can even work around like different shades you have in the background to make it kind of fit what you've already got going on there for texture. Like, get a little brick here. I think I'll put, because you could see some like exposed bricks, but you could see like it's been stuccoed over, but the ravages of time have kind of corroded some things, and some things have busted off, probably from the winter or whatever. I just think it adds such nice character when you can get that sort of stuff in. This larger area where the stucco was completely off. Do a little bit of shading under that. Can go from so excited and animated to so mellow just in painting. I think that's probably why I paint so much. Calm me down. There, that's kind of neat. Actually, I think I'll put some more of that in there and then kind of like blot at it with my sponge. Oh, I need the paper towel, I think, to get the texture. I'll have to stamp on with the sponge if I want to get... You typically don't use a sponge to apply really light bits of paint, but I wanted to try it here because I like the texture of it. And I'm just gonna try painting it on here so I don't absorb too much. Some of that nice texture in here. And again, doing this at like towards the beginning, so it's not like I'm trying to get around any flowers or anything because I haven't painted those on yet. So I kind of like how I can be kind of forceful with it and not worry too much. So there's another little tip. I will try scooping some up and seeing how that works. That's alright. That doesn't work too bad. There, just those few lines and that little bit of texture really adds quite a bit of depth and interest, I think. So I want to add a little bit of that kind of more peachy color up here. So I'm going to make a wash of that. I think I will rinse out my sponge there so I don't have any gray where I don't want it. Let's do some burnt sienna and yellow ochre. You can add a little bit of that rose to it. And let's just paint that on our sponge. And if you don't have a sponge like this, go ahead and use like a cello, is that how you say it? Cello kitchen sponge, just right even from the dollar store. Just tear it, you know, maybe tear off pieces so you get a very surface. You don't want a uniform surface, you want a very random surface. And I'm actually going to blot some of that off. And I want to get that out of this area. These are sedimentary colors, so I don't have to worry too much. I think I will brush over that a little bit. It's a little too strong over there, and it's a little too strong over here. I don't think I'm loving that. That's alright. We can bring it back. I think it's as important for you to see how I fix a mistake as it is for you to see me do it perfect. Because you'll learn from seeing me screw up. That, and I don't have to edit it if I let you see me screw up, I can just leave it right in there. That's a real reason, guys. I'm too lazy. Put that shadow back in. I did like that shadow. I actually liked how that was. I shouldn't have, but that's alright. You gotta practice. You gotta try. If you don't try, then you're not gonna know. You could have had something gorgeous, but you were too afraid to try, so don't be like that. There, I want to random up that surface a little bit, and I'm gonna soften up some of this over here. The sponge is just a little too bold. That's alright, because I want a random surface. I just didn't want quite that much texture, I guess. That much texture just looked a little off to me. Yeah, we'll put a little shadow in there, though. And then if I want some more texture, I can just blot it. Okay, have I horrified you guys enough yet? Seriously? You're probably just like, oh my word, I wish I stopped 3 steps ago. Don't worry about that, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna put, you know, and I can counteract in yellow there. If I don't like all that yellow ochre, I can do a little bit of more blue in here. But I'm not gonna worry about it. All this stuff can be adjusted later. I like that little splotch of light. I'm leaving that. Okay, so now let's work on the flowers here. The flower box is kind of a dark green. So what I'm going to do, I know I want to use some sap green here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some sap green. And actually, I'll take a little bit of that yellow ochre. I think what I want to do is actually reserve my space for my foliage. Since it is watercolor, you can't really paint on top of the darks unless you can lift them away. So I want to make sure that I have that room for the light stuff. And I'm blocking it in with my big brush because I'm not really committing to any definite shapes. I just want to kind of get my area. So I can go in with a finer brush later and get details. I'm just splopping in kind of. And splop is a word. No, it isn't. I'm lying. I'm just kind of splashing in some color. Hold on, I think I hear someone at the door. Well, there was nobody at the door, so there we go. That was, I just ran upstairs. I'm telling you what, though, it's a good thing I have that, I work in my basement, because every time I think I hear the door or the phone, and I forget my phone down here, I have to run up the stairs, so if it wasn't for that, I'd probably get very little exercise. Oh, well, I get very little exercise, that is. That at least is something. I'm also going to hit the foliage up here. This nice light sap green plus a little yellow ochre. We'll get that in there too, just so that when we paint the flower box green, we will, you know, have an idea of what not to paint. Unlike how not to paint, which is my typical, what I'm typically imparting on you. There's some little bitty bits there. Little bitty bits. Alright. I don't care about putting too much of this stuff up here because I'm not painting over that area with green, so I don't have to worry about reserving any space there. Oh, there's a very interesting looking, is that dry? That's dry-ish. Little interesting shapes here. I want to get those in there too. I might have to go in and lift. Actually, if the paper's a little damp, I might get some cool blooms that will actually work to my advantage. I switched to a larger round brush just to hold a little bit more color. Alright, and that's going to have to dry before we can do any more there. But we can do our washes on the shutters while we're waiting for that to dry. And I'm going to return back to my large brush. And I'm going to go back to the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue and the yellow ochre I was using, because they make some really nice earthy colors. And I'll just slide my palette over here so you can... I've got those, if I mix those, the ultramarine and the burnt sienna, I get that nice gray. And I could take some of the yellow ochre and burnt sienna to get some warmer wood if I want as well. I don't know why I'm talking with those like that. I don't know why I'm talking like that. That's weird. Do you ever do that? Do you ever just start talking like not yourself, like some random person once in a while? I don't know. It's like I had like the Chef John voice going. If any of you guys watch him, Food Wishes. I don't purposely watch a cooking show. My husband likes to watch cooking shows though. There we go. I'm very disinterested in cooking. So I seem to get worse as I get older too. I don't know why that is. Disinterested in being in the kitchen at all costs, I guess. It truly is my least favorite room. It's the room that seems to get the messiest and the most out of hand the easiest, I think. So I find it very frustrating. Frustrating room to be in. Drudgery. I'm adding just some burnt sienna now. You know, see, so our lines are still showing through that we put in there with a fan brush. And I am working on dry paper, but my brush holds quite a bit, so it's not like I am, the colors aren't flowing. That's another reason I like to use a large brush. And there's, oh my gosh, brushes are so much cheaper now than they used to be when I was a kid. I remember my first brush, it was a 1/2 inch brush with a clear handle like that, and it was $20 just for that one brush, and that was back in like 1980, I don't know, 1981, 82, somewhere around there, when I took my first watercolor class. I actually originally didn't love watercolor. I thought it was kind of wishy-washy and weak, and I wanted to paint with thicker things like oils. And but my instructor, who lived right across the field from me, was a watercolorist. She would occasionally paint in oils, but she was definitely a watercolorist. And so that's what she taught. And I grew to work with it, and then for a while I would use it really thick, like almost like an acrylic, and then I went and started using acrylics, and then probably because when I went to college I didn't have a lot of room, and I had my watercolors, so I would use those in pastels. And I don't know, it's just, I think especially after having children, watercolors so much, you know, lift the lid off your palette and go, you know, you don't have that setup barrier. You know, I think there's certain like barriers to entry or barriers that keep us from creating, and if we have to spend a lot of time setting up materials, it's a real buzzkill, and it makes us not do it. I mean, if you think you've got like 45 minutes where your baby's going to be napping, you don't want to spend 20 minutes just setting out your supplies. And maybe it wouldn't take that long, but it, you know, it just feels like you don't want to spend any time doing anything that's not the, you know, creativity that you love, and then you know, as you become more proficient in it, you just like it more, I guess. And I like the look of watercolors, and I think part of it was when I was younger, watercolors weren't really looked on very, like, you know, they were looked on as like, well, that's a kid's medium, or that's, you know, not serious. And but then I saw some gorgeous watercolors from a local artist, and it was just like, you know what, that's what I want to do. I want bright, vivid watercolors like she does. And so then seeing that that was possible, I began, you know, really focusing on the medium, really loving it. Alright, I'm defining these little like kind of spots between the slats on the shutters here, and I want to give it a little bit of a dark on the edge. Define it. I'm liking the texture here. I hope it looks good on camera. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Oh, so I did this experiment, and I was going to tell before I was so rudely interrupted by the person that wasn't at my door. I was going to tell you that a couple months ago, maybe it was only a month ago, a while ago, I can't remember, sometime in land long ago, not so long ago, in a galaxy, I don't know, I'm not a Star Wars fan. But anyway, I did a little experiment and I uploaded, and I did it for a couple of videos, and I uploaded a real-time tutorial like we're doing here, and I also recorded a speed version. Well, it was the same thing, I just sped it up in my editing software just to see if the sped up versions would be more popular, because I didn't, you know, I don't want to waste people's time. I want to make sure they're getting, you know, something out of my tutorials. And so the tulip, I did a tulip one in acrylics, and I did the full version, which was like, I don't know, 47 minutes long or something ridiculous like that. And then I had the speed version, which was like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 minutes long. It was pretty short. And so speed version has like 40 something thousand views, and the real-time one only has like 5,000. And I say only very loosely because I am just, you know, in awe that anybody watches anything that I make, but I was just like, okay, that was the proof was in the pudding, because people always say, yeah, longer tutorials, we want the longer ones, but sometimes you don't know if they're just being nice or what, and it seems like, no, they really do like the longer ones. So I was very happy to see that, because I didn't, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you look at your statistics and your analytics, and it can be quite, you know, it can be quite contrary to what you think. So you kind of wonder, you know, if what you're doing is right or wrong. But, you know, I also found if I trust my instincts, it's usually right. And I'm just putting in some more of those little splits and cracks in the wood. And the paper is still wet, so I'm not going to get really sharp lines. So that's the thing, when your paper is damp, your lines will be fuzzy. When your paper is dry, your lines will be crisp. And that's another thing that I've had people say that they don't understand, or they can't get the detail, or they're not getting the blending. And some of it will have to do with your paint. Like if you're using student grade paint, it does tend not to blend as well, because they need to beef it up with fillers to make it cost effective so they can sell it at a cheaper price. So it tends not to blend as well. But, you know, when you're first learning, I don't think that's a huge thing. I know some people say, no, buy the best you can afford. But I say buy the best that you will paint with. If you're going to be too afraid to put that brush to paper because you paid too much for or you paid more than you're comfortable using on your materials, then, you know, buy the best that you will actually use. And now my dog's barking because she wouldn't come in after she went out and barked at the non-existent person. And now she's on the porch saying, let me in, oh my gosh, why have you left me out here in this 50-degree weather? It might be 60 now. She's a Maine dog, it's not cold to her. She says, Mama, let me in. I'm out here with the cats and the chickens. They're braver than I am. Actually, I think the chickens went back in the coop. They were a little chilly. Alright. Okay, I'm pretty happy with what I've got going there. Now I'm going to go down here in the green. If the dog barks again, I'll have to pause and go let her in, because I don't like to make my baby suffer. Or the neighbors suffer. So we used to have free-range chickens. And, you know, foxes love free-range chickens, by the way. They're very concerned about their health, apparently. They like to go after the free-rangers. And, so we were left with only about 2 chickens last fall. And these 2 chickens were not laying eggs or anything. They were just... And they were the most miserable chickens. They weren't even nice. They didn't like to be picked up or anything. Like the other chickens were nice and they laid eggs and you could pick them up. And these last 2 ones were not the friendliest chickens I ever knew. But one of my husband's coworkers offered to take them in on his... He has a farm with, you know, home for weirwood chickens, I guess. And they could live out there years, and we were afraid, having only 2 chickens, that they would freeze to death together in the coop, even with the heat lamp for the winter, because it does get cold, and we had an extremely cold winter, so I'm so glad that he took them in. So anyway, I didn't want any more chickens, but my husband had promised one of my daughters that they could have chickens, and so they came home with 8 chickens, 8 chicks, and they are now out in the coop. And we decided we would keep them in because we have other neighbors that recently got chickens, and those chickens run around the town unsupervised all the time. And I often see them taking up my neighbor's lawn, and I think, oh, we're not going to have the... Then we think, you know, oh my gosh, our chickens. Because, you know, they would go off on little adventures sometimes, and I wouldn't see them for a couple hours, so I realized that's probably not a very good neighborly thing to do. Let your chickens roam the town. So if we do, when we do, we will let them out, but we won't let them out until the end of the day when we're home. It seems to be that the chickens would roam when their people weren't around. I think they'd get bored. They'd go and search for other people, maybe, I don't know. Very strange chickens. But we raised them from chicks, holding them so that they would be. Oh, but by the way, this is Sap Green and Ultramarine Blue that I'm painting in here. Still the same colors I've been using. So, you know, so because we raised them to be friendly, and they were apparently they're friendly to all the neighbors. But I didn't want them digging up other people's lawns. Bad enough they dig up our own. All right, there. It's kind of weird painting like this where I don't have this tipped up at all because I'm hoping that I don't have this distorted. So if you see something, if it looks really crooked, please accept my apologies. It's because of the angle I'm looking at it, so that it will be straight on for the camera. I don't really see it straight on. I look up in my monitor to make sure that it's reasonable, but it's not always perfect. Not that it should be. This is our painting. And I'm going in and filling in the colors here. This brush was a gift from my mother. It's a Winsor Newton Scepter Gold. And it is, I just want to mention this because it is a sable and synthetic blend. Personally, I don't buy sables, but if I've been given one, I'm not going to waste it. So there you have it. I like the Princeton Neptunes. If you're looking for a sable that's not a sable, they're very thirsty, wonderful brushes. I only have one, but it is a wonderful brush. I got the cat's tongue, and it can come to a nice fine point and do broad washes. I do have to pause this and let my dog in. I'll be right back. And we're back. The dog is back in. It was 55 degrees out. Cruel and unusual. 2 chickens were out. I checked the coop. The others had gone back in. It's not a day for dogs and chickens, folks. Alright. I'm feeling a little undefined up here, but I'm not going to worry about that quite yet. I'm just going to fake it here. The thing I don't like about a synthetic sable is that it gets a little floppy, and I feel like it doesn't have the spring, and I can't get the detail with it. So I'm going back in with the synthetic here, sharpen up my edge. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and splash in some flowers. And what brush do I want to use for that? I can go back in with this one. I was thinking I would grab that Neptune and give you a peek at that, but I'm not seeing it. What's this one? No, it's another one. No, I don't see it. Oh, do I? Hey, look at this. I have not used this in, like, I don't know. This is another gift from my mother. I think I'm going to try it. It is a Winsor Newton squirrel brush, so I'm just being a horrible person today. But you know, I've had these for a long time, and I wouldn't buy them. Just, you know, not because of the quality, but because of the, you know, I don't know if these are byproducts of the fur industry or not, but like hog bristles, they're byproducts of the meat industry. My family eats meat, even though I don't, so I figure, you know, what's the saying? In for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. You know, but I do kind of cringe at the whole fur industry. But it's also, you know, it's not going to bring them back if I don't use it, so I don't buy them, but if I give them as a gift, I do use them. I'm just kind of, and they do come to a really nice point. If you take care of them, they'll last you a lifetime. So please, if you have a sable brush, take care of it. It will last you forever. Okay? There we go. That's important. Do as little harm as you can, I think. I was talking about on my blog the other day, I shared my my video for making your own oil painting brush cleaner. Because I don't like to, well, I'm worried about improper use of solvents, both the fire hazard, the toxicity of the fumes, and also just the wastefulness of it. I don't want it, you know, just be tossed down the drain. I don't want people tossing it on their property, in their yards. You know, you want to make sure that you're not doing something foolish, you know, especially when there's so many alternatives out there for, you know, for art. You don't have to use solvents and oil paints. You can use water mixables, but traditional oil paints are fabulous. They're splendid. They're lovely. And, you know, if you're going to use them, you want to have the least of footprint, I guess, on it. I'm making these a little bit, some of these a little bit higher, letting them overlap. I love this color. This is a nice color. Something I kind of want to try. A part of me wants to try it. Part of me is kind of afraid I'm going to ruin my picture when it's on. I'm thinking about using some Brusho crystals in those flowers. I'm going to think on that. Let's see, what else could I do to darken that? Okay, so I can take a little bit of green and a little bit of blue and darken up that pink. So let me show you that here on my palette. We're talking about this on the blog comments. Oh, that's another thing. If you ever leave a comment, I answer you where you leave your comments. So if you leave a comment to me, and I totally should have cleaned my brush before I just stuck it in that pink. If you leave a comment for me on my blog, I'm going to answer it on my blog. If you leave a comment for me on YouTube, I answer it on YouTube. I know sometimes people will leave their email address for me to email them, but sometimes I'm like, if I'm on a tablet, it depends on where I am. It might not be very convenient for me to go into email. Ooh, that's really juicy. And so if I have to think, well, wait, I'll do that later, it might not be done because I'll think I already answered those comments. So I will answer you where you leave a comment, just I guess is what I want to say. All right, but I'm making a little bit more of that with a little less water. So I've got some red, and I grab a little bit of that green. And there's already a little blue in there, so I'm just making this kind of nice murky shadow right there. Is it helpful to see my palette, or does it make no difference? Let me know. If you'd rather just have more of a close-up of the painting and not see the palette at all, let me know. If you think it's really useful to see the palette, then go ahead, let me know that too. I'm adding kind of like just a bit of shadow in here. You can use the same color to shadow the green, just have a little more green in it. I tried those Brusho crystals for the first time yesterday. I ordered some from Blick because some people had asked me to try them out, and they were only like $2.17 a bottle. So I ordered 3 colors, and I wish I got a couple more because I was very limited. Once I started using it and thought, oh, I want to do this, then I was like, oh, this is not really going to use. They're not so much the kind of paint you mix, they're more the kind you want to just throw on the paper as they are and kind of let them do their thing. So, but now I know that, and now you guys know that too because I did the review, and you guys can decide whether that's for you. But still, it's kind of like, oh shoot, if I knew that, I would have got an orange and, you know, a green, like a sappy green color or something like that. But next time, I'm always putting an order into Blick, so not a huge deal. I do custom framing, so I tend to be ordering mat board and that sort of thing quite a bit. Alright, I want to put in some stems to some of my little flowers here. I always like to save the stems till I get the flowers on because sometimes it's harder to, you know, you kind of just want to put the stems where the flowers happen to land. It's just a little easier to do it that way, I think. I can make that extend a little bit more. I like how stems can kind of guide your eye through the painting. I'm actually liking how this comes out. It's kind of fun. Alright, I'm going to do, I think, some more fresh green leaves in here. Gosh, we're over 40 minutes on this. I don't feel too bad if it's my only tutorial this weekend. I do hope I can get some footage from the stamp show, but we'll see what I can do. I haven't used many colors here, have I? You don't need... it's nice to have a lot of colors to pick from, but I wouldn't use more than like 5 in a painting generally. Because once you get too many, your painting will not have harmony anymore. You know, it starts to look very discordant. Which might be what you're going for. Don't get me wrong, if that's what you're going for, because you have something you want to say, you want to have that uncomfortable feeling in your painting, that's completely fine, and that's an artistic choice. But if you're not if that's not what you're going for, and you're like, geez, why is this awkward looking? Well, that's probably why. You have too many colors. You have too much going on that doesn't really make sense. There's another thing I can't do very well, and that's garden. So, but I love to paint flowers, but I'm not like, burdened by the fact that I don't really, I think if I knew how a lot of flowers really looked, I'd be like, well, that's not how that looks, and I'd be burdened by that. I can just go by the design and be like, yep, I think I want a leaf there. You don't have to worry about it actually looking like that in nature. So if you're a gardener, you may be cringing, and I do apologize. I'm painting what I want to paint. I notice sometimes, like, I haven't looked at my reference photo in about 15 minutes, so it's like, yeah, I'm just kind of doing my own thing here. Talking to myself, doing my own thing when I should be packing. That's me, folks. I was kind of hoping it was the mailman when the dog started barking. I was hoping it was my phone. Although I'm kind of afraid to set it up. It's a track phone, which is what I've always had. Ever since, I think my first cell phone was like a Unicell or something like that. It was like $10 a month, and then you paid 10 cents a minute if you actually used it, which was fine with me because I really don't use my cell phone, just for emergencies. And everything else has been a track phone, but my husband's always set them up for me. So I don't want to mess it up, and I don't want to try to roll over my other minutes. I think I'll, leave that phone in case, for the kids to take with them for emergencies. I like how, because I've got another, like, 1.5-year activation on that, so might as well keep that phone active in case I want to give it to somebody or lend it to somebody or something. It's nice to have a backup, or in case I can't figure out how to use this darn one, then I've got a backup. Plus, then I can, start fresh with who I want to have my phone number. I'm awful, aren't I? Yeah, I've reconsidered you having my phone number. Please remove it from your email directory or your phone directory thing. I don't know if you can even do that. How rude, right? That'd be pretty rude. I wouldn't say that to somebody. Even if I wanted to. Yeah, I decided I'm going to go with my original perspective mistake and just kind of keep it, because undoing it will make the painting worse. And I've got to fill in, so I'm taking a little ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I'm going to fill in some little spots here where I've still got the white where it's not really benefiting my picture. Over here. Alright, and I think I do want to give a try with those Brusho colors, so I'm going to have to, this is going to be kind of a leap of faith. I don't know if it's going to come out well, but I think we both can learn something from it, so I am going to give it a try. So the Brusho colors, I've got them right over here. Like I said, I only have 3. I took a pin and I poked a hole in the top so I could just sprinkle it out, kind of like salt. And I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to just spray a little bit, enough water. I'm gonna actually pause this and see if I can find a smaller spray bottle, because I don't want to use this and end up with a mess, so hang on a minute. Okay, I've got my little Tombow sprayer, and I'm going to very kind of like mask off a little bit here. And I'm just giving it a little bit of spray where I think I sprinkled. Alright, I kind of like what's happening up there. Ooh, look at that. This is going to be one of those, is my head in the way? This is going to be one of those techniques that you have to be very careful with, I think. And have a paper towel handy. Because I don't want to ruin my whole painting. I've really enjoyed painting this with you today, and I don't want to... I do not want to wreck it. Did I get any out there? I got a little bit out there. Okay, I think I'm going to just do a couple more sprays and call it good. I have a really hard time restraining myself. That's one of my things. I'm very impulsive. I think that's probably why art was such a good thing for me, because it's a way better impulse to have than others. Okay. I think that's, did I put any there? I think I want a little, okay, I want a little bit more. Then I'm going to be done. It's really hard to stop. This is fun. It's kind of nice not to worry about the time, too. Ooh, there we go. Did I put a little bit there? Really, really fun. Okay, I have a little bit of... Did I get that? Alright. And I might just kind of dry up some puddles. And now I'm going to let this dry and come in with a little bit of detail here in the flowers up high. So hold on, let me dry it with my hair dryer. Okay, it's not 100% dry, but it is pretty close. I've still some other areas I'm going to work on while I am waiting for that to dry. I wanted to show you this area right in here. I love what happened there. I love that texture and shape. But the thing is, it's very, because I'm just a beginner with a Brusho. I just used them for the first time yesterday. I don't exactly know how to control it, but that's kind of the look I'm going for. So I've got this kind of brown, that's the burnt sienna with some ultramarine blue. I'm just going to paint it in this area here. We've got the rusty hinge and over here. And there's also a chance I'm going to catch into some of that that crazy powder paint, the Brusho paint, while I'm working. So I just, you know, that might happen. I'm not going to worry about it. But just if you see some crazy like explosion of color happen, that's probably why. Okay, so I'm just kind of dabbing in some burnt sienna because it looks very rusty. It's actually an iron oxide color, I believe, so that makes sense why it's rusty looking. And I'm also going to dab in some of the yellow ochre. And some of the blue. So I have a mix of those colors in there, and then I'm putting the colors in kind of on their own, just to give it a really rich rust color, and I'll let that dry. I want to have a little bit of shading in the windows, so I'm going to go, you know, I think I'll go to this thirsty brush here. I'm going to use mostly blue, ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt sienna in it, and I'm just going to start here off the edge and drag it down. Like I mentioned, this isn't a brush I'm used to, but I like the kind of organic texture I'm getting from there. I'm just going to look at it for a second and decide if I want to soften some of those edges. Careful of that red paint, the Brusho stuff I might be dragging into. Not going to worry about it too much though. I can see I've got a little bit of that in there. Alright. That's very, very non-stiff brush, very, very flopsy. Alright, and I think I'm going to define some of, well, I need another paper towel. I'm splashing dirty water all over the place. Alright, I want to go in and add some definition on some of the shutters. I'm going in with that small, it's a number 4 pointed round with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue mix. And I'm going to define the boards on the side here. This is kind of a really sunny day, it looks like, and so there's a lot of crisp definition, a lot of shadow, and a lot of highlights, so I want to get some of that in there. And when I was putting this other colors in here, it was wet or damp, so anything that was defined kind of got washed away. You know, like if it's a really bright day, you can, you know, see a lot clearer, see things more sharper and focus and clearer, and that's kind of what I want it to look like here. Get those gaps between the boards. They're not perfect, they're old, they're textured, very fun to paint. Define those little nail holes. Oh, I really should be packing. Maybe put a knot in the wood there. It's supposed to be cold, but I like to, when I travel, I like to pack sundresses because they don't wrinkle, and I can cram a bunch in my backpack. Because basically I pack like I'm a college student. You know, except for my art supplies, those are all set. Taking up all kinds of space. Don't mind that at all. Alright. I'm going to define some of my leaves at this point. And I mean, actually, it's not even really that. I'm just kind of just adding some stems and some squiggles. I don't want to lose the freshness of the foliage. I want to keep it nice and loose. Just a few stems here and there. I completely lost a lot of definition over here, so I definitely need to do something. Now if I had to repick my palette, I might have added a little bit more of a, like a lemon, cadmium lemon or cad yellow light, or some like nice sharp yellow. But I don't want to add at this stage because it's not going to improve my painting at this stage. At this stage it would just be discordant. So kind of when you pick your palette, I try to get most of my colors for my my picture worked into the background so that I know everything is going to be harmonized. So you can always do like a little study too, a little sketch before you start painting, but I knew I wasn't going to take hours on this painting, so I just want to jump right in. Kind of the same way with knitting. I hate to do gauges, so I don't. And a lot of things don't fit. So I just want to get right into, that's why I don't knit sweaters anymore. It was too frustrating. I didn't want to take the time to do a gauge swatch. Now I'm more like, you know, scarves, dishcloths, occasionally socks. That's about as precise as I'm willing to get. Alright, you can add a little blue into your green if you need it darker. I'm just going to define a few of the flowers, and I'm going to call it good, really. It's kind of a long tutorial for me. I hope that I'm going to take a little bit of that blue and take a little bit of that pink we were using. That's going to be my nice super dark for the flowers. I hope you didn't mind the long tutorial, or if you did, that you used the speed ahead version. You know, use the double time or whatever. And you know, you can check out the photo for yourself if you want to paint it. And I think it's a nice kind of fun summery subject matter. Geraniums in a flower basket. I love geraniums, as long as somebody else grows them. Like my dear husband. I was at the nursery the other day to get some plants for the Girl Scout project, and there were so many succulents and beautiful fuchsia hanging baskets and lovely things that I'm just like, oh, I think I might be able to handle watering that. They get it all nice in a basket. All I have to do is hang it up and water it. I could probably manage that. And then I'm just going to sign my name down in the corner. I think I'll use green. And that's about it. I can't talk and sign at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. And that's it. Until next time, happy crafting!